I have been having a blast smoking on my new 250-gallon offset. And based on my YouTube statistics, it seems like you guys are enjoying it too.
That is a bit above average.
So today I'm gonna be smoking brisket, pork butt, and chicken on my 250. So here's all the meat that I'm prepping today, and it is a ton because I'm actually cooking for a party. So initially I was skeptical about getting a smoker this size because I really didn't need all the cooking space. But now that my friends and family know that I have it, it seems like I'm cooking on this thing all the time. So I'm gonna kick things off with the brisket, and I got this from Sam's Club. And I bought it from Sam's Club because Costco was sold out. And Sam's absolutely got me because I ended up paying $5 a pound for this thing. Initially, I wanted to buy 2 briskets, but because the brisket was so expensive, I ended up just buying one massive 20-pound brisket. So I am not going in depth at all for this trim because I just released a beginner's guide to brisket video. And I really get into the weeds of how I like to trim brisket, so if you need to, you can watch that video in the description. But one thing I will say about this trim is I am gonna be very aggressive with removing the mohawk. On my last brisket cook where I made the world's darkest brisket, I did not cut enough of the mohawk off and the fat that was underneath it. So at the end of the cook, I ended up with that big glob of white fat that I absolutely hate. So I'm gonna really cut into this and just make sure that it's as flat and even with the rest of the brisket as possible. And for seasoning, you probably already guessed that I'm gonna be hitting this Jirby style, so that's pepper, salt, and Lawry's. Man, if y'all haven't subscribed to Jirby Barbecue yet, like for real, what are you waiting for? Okay, now on to the pork butts. So I have a boneless two-pack here from Costco, and I'm gonna be doing something very special with these. So usually I follow Mad Scientist Barbecue's method for doing pork butt and just go salt and pepper, smoke, and that's it. But this time I'm gonna be following Jirby Barbecue's method based on his pork butt video that he released on his YouTube page. So I'm gonna be doing this loosely based on Jirby's method because his video is really long and I just haven't seen it in a while. So if you wanna see his exact method, then make sure to check out his video. So I'm really not gonna do much to these pork butts. I'm just gonna kind of look over them and make sure there's no cartilage or bones sticking out from the butcher work. Then I'm gonna use a binder that's half hot sauce and half soy sauce to make sure that the binder sticks to the fat cap. And for seasoning, I'm gonna start out with black pepper and then finish it with some honey hog from Meat Church. So I'm just gonna make sure that these butts are fully covered with the pepper and honey hog, and that's pretty much all there is to it. Okay, now on to the chicken legs. So originally I was gonna do like 24 of these legs, but I just never had a chance to go back to the store, so now I'm just doing 2 dinky legs, but it's all good because I'm just gonna make them for my wife. So I'm gonna go with the pepper first, and then I'm gonna go with Heath Ryle's chicken rub until they're fully covered. And for the final item for today, I'm gonna season up this big bag of defrosted chicken breasts. So this is not for the party, this is just for me and for my meal prep because I'm currently on a cut, but I just knew that even with all the meat I've already prepared, that there's still gonna be a ton of room on this 250, so I figured I'd throw the chicken breasts on too. So for the rub, I'm just doing pepper, salt, and Lawry's because it virtually has 0 calories. Now the Heath Ryle's rub does have like 5 calories in it, but you gotta save calories where you can. Okay, so let's get the 250 fired up and get all this meat onto the pit. It is insane how much cooking space is in here. Like all that food I just prepped and it didn't even cover half of all the grates. Top grates completely uncovered, and I didn't even have to open this door right here. So a lot of people have been asking me where I found this smoker, and because I think it'll be beneficial to any of you who are looking to buy a smoker in the near future, I'll tell you the story. So I'm always on Craigslist, OfferUp, Facebook Marketplace because I'm looking every day for deals on smokers. And one day while browsing Facebook Marketplace, I saw this smoker listed for $2,500. Now I had no clue how much a smoker of this size usually goes for because if you go to any of the popular builder sites, if you look up a 250-gallon pit, their website usually says, email us for a quote. But I knew smaller pits in the 94-gallon to 120-gallon range were easily over $4,000. So my first thought was, this is definitely a scam. And on top of that, I had no idea what to look for in a 250-gallon pit, so I had no idea if this thing was even well built. So big shout out to Jeremy Yoder because I messaged him and I sent him all the pictures of the listing and just asked him, is this a good deal? And he told me that if this thing cooks even half as good as the 250s he's cooked on, then this is an incredible deal. So that gave me the confidence to message the seller, and then he gave me a virtual tour with his phone, and then we made the deal happen. So anyways, long story, but the lesson here is to make sure to always check these yard sale apps because every now and then you can get a crazy deal. Well, it's been a couple of hours and the 3 chicken legs are ready for the next step. Chicken is awesome to smoke because it cooks really fast and it also absorbs a lot of smoke flavor even in that short period of time. So these legs have a beautiful crust on the outside, and I'm just gonna throw them in a foil pan with some barbecue sauce and a few scoops of Wagyu beef tallow. And I'm gonna let them braise for a bit until they're done. And I'm guessing that's gonna take about 15 to 20 minutes maximum. And for the breasts, I've actually never smoked chicken breasts before, so I'm kind of guessing here, but I just stuck a probe in the thickest piece of chicken breast, and I'm just waiting until it hits about 150 degrees, and then I'm gonna pull them all. Okay, so the chicken phase of our cook is complete. So I'm gonna go ahead and put the legs away until my wife is ready to eat. And I'm gonna store the breast in the fridge for easy meal prep. But before I do that, I do wanna give the breast a try. Yeah, buddy. All right, let's try it. It's good. I don't know if y'all can see that, but still very juicy. All right, last bite. Chicken breast gets a really bad rap for being dry and kind of flavorless, and honestly, compared to all of the other amazing barbecue items out there like brisket or pork butt, it's kind of true. But I am in the process of making a video about making chicken breast as delicious as humanly possible. So if that's of any interest to you, then make sure to subscribe so you don't miss it. So all that's left are the 2 pork butts and the massive brisket. It's been several hours, so I'm just spraying the parts of the meat that are getting darker and crisper than the other parts. And that's something that I noticed with this 250-gallon pit, is that the meat gets super dry in comparison to my Pecos offset. And I think it's because the draw on this 250 is just so much stronger than the Pecos. The hot air is just whipping past the meat, and it's almost like air frying it, which makes the meat experience the Maillard reaction a lot faster, giving you that trademark dark bark that you get when you cook on an offset. But this also makes the meat a little crispy, especially on the lean parts. So it's super crucial to spray so that the brisket or whatever you're smoking doesn't burn. Okay, I don't know why this happens to me every single time, but every week my cook day falls on the coldest day of the week. Right now it's the middle of March, so spring is in full effect. The flowers are blooming. It's been an awesome like 70 degrees every single day for the last 2 weeks. Bros, it's literally snowing right now. So because this is my first time smoking in the snow, I am noticing a lot of differences than smoking in warmer weather. For starters, because the air is so cold outside, it's taking a lot more firewood to keep the pit maintained at 275. And I think this is the case because the fire is drawing in that cold air, and it's just taking a lot more energy to turn that into hot smoke. And second of all, every time I open the cook chamber, snow falls on top of the meat and it starts to melt. So it's almost like I'm spritzing it. So I'm being really intentional, especially in the early stages of the cook, not to open up the cook chamber, because if I do, I'm gonna let the snow in, my bark's not gonna set, and I'm gonna be out here forever with a soggy brisket. But even though I'm cold and miserable, this is still a really good learning opportunity for me. But anyways, the meat is looking right about ready to wrap, and I'm gonna go ahead and start on these pork butts. And again, the way that I'm going to do this is highly inspired by Jirby BBQ, so make sure to check out his channel. So for the first butt, I'm gonna put a pile of sugar and a little bit of water and just wrap the pork butt in there with foil. And I'm gonna go ahead and double wrap this because all of that melted sugar and juice in the wrap is going to be very crucial at the end of this cook, and I don't want to waste a single drop. And for the second butt, I'm gonna kind of freestyle on this thing. So the first thing I'm gonna add is dark mushroom soy sauce to the foil. Okay, y'all for real gotta try this stuff because it is so good and versatile. I use it on everything. So shout out to Jirby BBQ for letting me know about this sauce, and quit playing around, y'all. Click on the description below, get you some of this dark soy sauce. You're not gonna regret it. It will absolutely up your barbecue game. And on top of the soy sauce, I'm adding some honey and a little apple cider vinegar, and then just wrapping it up tight like the first butt. And I'm not doing nothing new with the brisket. It's just beef tallow, butcher paper. You guys know the drill. An hour or so later in the wrap, and it is time to pull and rest this meat. And I'm gonna rest these in the oven overnight at 170 degrees Fahrenheit. So I pulled the brisket and the pork butts at about 190 internal. I already rendered the fat on the outside of the meat before I wrapped, so since I'm doing a hot hold, the fat is going to continue to render on the inside of the meat overnight. And because I'm pulling the meat early at 109 degrees Fahrenheit, this is going to help prevent the meat from getting mushy and overcooked. So with that said, I'm going to bed, and we'll see how it turns out in the morning. Okay, so let's start with these pork butts. So the reason why we pack the juice so tight in there is because we're gonna use all of that juice and just pour it over the shredded pork and mix that all together. And after shredding it and mixing it with all of its juices, I'm gonna add a little bit more of that honey hog rub to each of the pork butts. And again, I usually just go salt and pepper with pork butts, but I really love how Jirby just tries to pack as much flavor as possible into these pork butts, because I'm gonna give this to my friends and family, and this is like the first time I'm really barbecuing for them, so I really want to just knock their socks off. Okay, so let's give these pork butts a try. So I'm gonna start out with this soy sauce honey one I made. Wow, it looks so flavorful. All right, cheers. I regret going soy sauce with that. It really masks that smoky flavor. Still tastes really good, it just doesn't taste like smoked pork anymore. All right, here's the sugar and water pork butt. Yep, I like that one way better. You get the sweetness from that sugar, and sugar always complements pork really well, but on top of that, you can still taste the smoke just shining through. That is a winner right there. Man, people are gonna love this one. So I'm really kicking myself right now because I did not sharpen the knife, and oh my gosh, I butchered the heck out of this brisket. But still, even with a dull knife, I'm just trying to slice these to get them into uniform pencil thick slices, because if it's too thin, it's gonna be way too floppy and doesn't have any structure. But if it's too thick, then it makes it way harder to chew, and it just makes a much less pleasurable bite. One thing I'm really looking forward to is trying out different rest times for brisket. I'm curious on how short or how long of a rest time you can get away with without compromising your final product. And you already know that I'm gonna be posting a video about my findings. So I did not go into a whole lot of detail on how I smoked this brisket, and I thought it turned out fantastic despite my terrible knife work. But if you want to know my brisket process in a beginner-friendly format, then make sure to watch the video on your screen right now.